All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, the official podcast of thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. It is Tuesday, April 30th. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm your host, Griffin, joined by Jason Cabrera. Jason, what's up, buddy?
Not a whole lot, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, coming off of that high that was Game of Thrones that we talked about a little bit off stream. Don't want to give away any spoilers, but we can both say we enjoyed it, though we both have knowledge of battle tactics, and we think that things could have been done better, and we'll leave it at that. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. But yeah, definitely an episode worth watching. It's going to go down in TV history, and we'll move on. No spoilers here, because we have an amazing show for you guys today. Today, we're going to be talking about all your top fantasy relevant quarterbacks and running backs, rookies out of the NFL draft that just concluded. Spoiler alert, you know, we've talked about in the past how this was not the deepest offensive draft. There's a lot of guys that were drafted. We'll mention a number of them, but in reality, there's only a handful that are really relevant that we're going to spend a lot of time on. So if we don't spend a lot of time talking about your guy that went to your team, just know it's because we don't think he's going to have a big fantasy, maybe a real life impact. Probably not a big fantasy impact, but we'll get to that. As always, make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening. We're a year-round show. We're also going to bring you all the top headlines from around the league every Tuesday and Friday right here. We are on Twitch, of course. We're on YouTube, former iTunes, on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, Podcast Bean. The list goes on and on. We are also on Patreon. If you want to support the show, at patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. On Twitter, at the FF Fanatics. And Facebook at facebook.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. We're all over the place. Make sure you guys subscribe, rate, review. Don't miss a show. We're going to give you all the stuff you need to hopefully bring home your titles, and this is the homework that gets you guys a really good head start for your leagues in 2019. All that being said, a little bit of news that we have to get to today, so we'll start at the top, as we always do, at the quarterback position. Now, this happened, of course, in the draft, and quarterback Josh Rosen, former Arizona Cardinals starting quarterback Josh Rosen, has been traded to the Miami Dolphins. So, Jason, thoughts, buddy? Your former quarterback.
Well, I mean, I'm on record saying that I definitely think that he's going to have a big career. I think he's got the intelligence, the toughness. He's got the arm talent to be not just good, but great in the NFL. I think I said this last show that I was on. I think that the Cardinals really kind of messed this whole thing up. There was a complete debacle.
Yeah.
They should have been shopping him if they were going to do this. There's no reason for all of this, you know, secrecy and hype and all that other stuff. If they were going to do this, they should have been shopping him from the beginning. They should have said, hey, you know what, we're going to do this. We know we're going to draft Kyler Murray. We're going to go ahead and try to get the best value for you we possibly can. Because the bottom line is this. If Rosen had been in this draft, he would have gone as probably the number 1 overall quarterback, or the number 2 overall quarterback. He's better than anybody else that was on the board. So the fact of the matter is they should have been shopping him. They should have been trying to get as high a draft pick as they could. I think that's why they ended up taking a low second for him, is because they waited for a really long time to shop him. You know,
Yeah.
So nobody knew what was going on. They weren't taking calls on it. So I think that it was a debacle by the Cardinals. But it's a good situation for Rosen. He gets to go to a new place, gets an opportunity to maybe sit behind Fitzpatrick for a little while and then get on the field. I honestly think he'll be starting sooner rather than later.
I heard because I am a firm believer that he's going to sit in 2019. I think that he is going, because this is an absolutely no risk thing for the Dolphins. I mean, the Cardinals have already paid his contract for 2019. Yeah. It literally no risk for them. But you know, we're all expecting the Dolphins to tank and try and get high draft picks. What if they go out and they spend a top 2 or 3 pick on another quarterback, and then Rosen is in this other carousel again next year? It's just.
Yep.
We don't know what we're going to see, because I, like you, agree. I think that he would probably be the number 2 quarterback in this year's draft. I think that he has a bright future. He's got a lot of comparables to being like a Matt Ryan type guy. A guy can lead an offense, good arm, very smart on the field. But, I mean, it is what it is. The Dolphins are going to want to tank. That's why they brought Fitzpatrick in, so he's going to do it in glorious style. But, I mean, who knows? Maybe if they start losing a ton of games, the fans will want to see what they have in Rosen. I don't know, but I would honestly be surprised if he sees the field. I think they're going to want to hold on to them and just see what they have in Rosen and try and evaluate for the 2020 season, the draft, all of those things. But I could see Rosen having a bright future. And you know what's interesting? And actually, I heard this and I was like, yeah, that's a good point. Every team except for the Patriots in the AFC East now has a top 10 quarterback from last year's draft in it. So that's kind of an interesting stat. So the AFC East, there's a lot of 2018 quarterbacks in that division now, but I don't think he'll start. I think he'll have a bright future if that does come to pass with the Dolphins, where they do end up getting a top tier guy, because there's a couple really good quarterbacks coming out next year. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes. He'll get a shot at some point, we believe, but the question is when and where. I would assume it's with the Dolphins, but that's a possibility that they could continue to just keep moving on. I certainly hope not. That's pretty messed up for Rosen. But we'll move on. The Philadelphia Eagles, speaking of young quarterbacks, they exercised their 5th-year option on quarterback Carson Wentz. No surprise there. They want to get a long-term contract done with him, so that keeps him under contract through the 2020 season. And yeah, that's the quarterback news. Let's go to the wide receiver news, and I'm going to preface this by just simply saying we're not going to dive into it. Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Tyreek Hill is expected to be added to the commissioner's exempt list. Now, reportedly, he will not take part in any of the team activities. This comes from the team, not from him. And this is on the heels of a lot of just kind of truly disturbing things that have happened. He was basically cleared for lack of evidence, and then new evidence resurfaced. And look, you're innocent until proven guilty, but the evidence is... It's horrible. We're not, I mean, there are strong words that would like to be said, but it is a family-friendly podcast, so we're not going to say those words. But it does not look good for Tyreek Hill, his future, not with the Chiefs, but in this league. So, innocent till proven guilty, but he looks darn guilty right now. And if you've been tracking this, you know the extents of what's been going on. We're not going to get into it because we want to keep smiles and fantasy. We're here for fun, but this is unfortunately a part of it. So Tyreek Hill, a guy who, if we go back 2 months ago, we were hearing reports about how he was going to set an NFL record for the highest paid wide receiver in the league. Now is quite probably not playing football in the 2019 season and most likely beyond, based on what we're hearing now. It's a lot of rumors, nothing's official, but it looks bad, and we'll just leave it at that, and we will move on. Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Doug Baldwin, he has an announcement upcoming. There's a lot of reports coming out as of late that, based on all of his injuries, the upcoming surgeries, the ones he just had, that's the long series of injuries he's had over the last couple of years, all kind of taking their toll on the now veteran, very much veteran receiver, that he is expected to potentially have to retire and hang him up. Reportedly, we're not going to hear anything super soon. He wants to see how he heals up and see how it goes, but the team has come out and said this is a decision and a announcement that he will make, not them. They're going to give him that opportunity. So I would expect not to hear anything for a while now, but this could be really big news for certain players, which we'll cover on Friday's show, some rookies. So we'll get to that down the line. So expect to hear news about Doug Baldwin in the not too distant future. If you're a dynasty owner or in a keeper league, probably pretty important news you're going to want to hang on to and see what the end conclusion is. Let's move on to the tight end position. The New England Patriots are reportedly trading tight end Jacob Hollister to the Seattle Seahawks, speaking of the Seahawks, for a 2020 conditional 7th round pick, so basically nothing. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on with Seattle and some tight ends, and I am a firm believer, and we'll get to this, that Kyle Rudolph is going to be a tight end for the Patriots soon, but we'll get to that on Friday show because there's some tight end news to talk about. We'll get there. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, I fully do not expect him to be the only veteran tight end on this team come the 2019 season, and for reasons of that happened in the draft, I'm kind of expecting it to be Kyle Rudolph. So we'll get there. Friday show. Be there. That's a bumper. And we'll move on to some other news where former Oakland Raiders and Seattle Seahawks, a lot of Seattle news, kicker Sebastian Janikowski is officially retiring from the NFL after 19 NFL seasons. The huge leg, high draft pick, calling it a career. Kickers don't often make the Hall of Fame. This guy has a definite background to make a push for it. So we'll see what happens. It's really hard to predict when it comes to kickers. There's a lot of other positions that tend to get priority. So I don't think it's worth us having the conversation or the debate, but obviously a big name and a guy who has been in the league for almost 20 years. Everybody knows him, and we will move on to the topic of the day, which is our rookie landing spots, quarterbacks and running backs, our top fantasy relevant ones at that. Now, I went ahead and listed every quarterback and every running back that was taken. Now, we'll have some conversation on some of these guys, some debates, and some interesting things to talk about. Realistically, there's only a couple of guys that we really need to focus on here that are for the fantasy relevant side of things, but we might give you some hot takes on a couple of guys. We're probably not going to go through all of them. And we'll start at the top, of course, with the 101 pick, the Arizona Cardinals picking Kyler Murray, Josh Rosen out the door. Obviously, Kyler Murray is expected to be the starter. And Jason, again, your team, you said that you slept on this. You're feeling better about it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I chose to embrace the chaos. You know what I mean? That's all you can really do is just embrace the chaos, and that's what I've done. And it wasn't just me coming to grips with it. It was also what they did in the draft. When they did this, you could see there was a coherent plan in the draft that they went out and they got Kyler Murray. Then they got a corner finally that's going to be on the other side of Patrick Peterson that's going to help us out. Then they went out and they got 3 really good wide receivers. You know what I mean? And we can talk about those in the next show. But basically, the idea was give Kyler Murray as many weapons as he can possibly use to use this spread offense, this K raid that they're going to be doing out here in Arizona. And now that I've seen that, now that I see the thought process and everything, I get it. You know what I mean? And to be honest with you, I'm kind of excited about it. You know, I had to let go of Josh Rosen, you know, and let it all go and focus on what they're doing. And really, you've got great weapons around him now. You've got David Johnson, pairing David Johnson with Kyler Murray in the backfield is scary. What do? You got to stop one of them. You know what I mean? And then you've got Larry Fitzgerald, you've got Christian Kirk, and you've got those new wide receivers like Hakeem. Can't remember his name. 6'5", 225 pounds, gigantic guy, runs a 4.40. You know what I mean? And then you're talking about Isabella, who runs a 4.340. You know, absolutely ridiculous weapons that they put around him. So honestly, I think that Kyler Murray and
Butler?
And we all know what's that?
Hakeem Butler?
Butler, yes.
Yeah, he went to you, right? Yeah.
Right, yeah. 6'5", huge, very fast. Problems with drops. Really good receiver, though. The bottom line here is this. We know that running quarterbacks have a very big impact in the fantasy realm. Not only that, first-year running quarterbacks always come out. They always explode. People don't know what to do about them, especially in a situation like this where he's not just going to explode and run. He's also going to drop back and launch that ball 60 yards. You don't know what he's going to do. So I definitely think Kyler Murray is going to be somebody to keep an eye on in fantasy circles.
Yeah, I mean, Kyler Murray, he's a guy who, he's pretty darn good. He's a mobile guy. He likes to do a lot of stuff. I've heard some comparisons to being a better passing version, maybe not as good of a runner, but a better passing version of a Lamar Jackson for my Ravens. I don't know if I like that comparison too much. I will say that his measurables are pretty interesting because he's actually, get this, his measurables, body type, arm span, all that stuff, he's closest to one Baker Mayfield.
Also Wilson.
No, Baker Mayfield,
yeah.
actually.
Baker Mayfield, yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting. Obviously, we expect big things for him. He was my absolute fantasy darling and top quarterback that I predicted last year. It happened to pass. And now we have Kyler Murray, who is out there. He's a pretty fast guy. He's got all these weapons, and I think he's really set up to succeed. Of course, the biggest knock on him that he's a 5'10" quarterback, but I mean, we've seen smaller quarterbacks succeed in this league. They just have to play a little bit different. Maybe he's got to work the angles. He's mobile. He should be able to do that. He's got great wide receiving weapons. He's got one of the best running backs in the league, despite what anybody will tell you. I really think Kyler Murray's in a position to succeed. Now, are we drafting him for fantasy? Probably not. I would go out and say that I'm not looking to roster him. I think that he is a bye-week plug-in type guy. What are your thoughts on that, Jason?
Honestly, because of the situation and because of the nature of running quarterbacks in the fantasy world and rookie quarterbacks of this nature, I wouldn't mind taking him in late rounds. I mean, he's still a rookie, so I'm not going to be taking him in mid rounds or anything crazy like that. But if I need a quarterback, and he's available in late rounds, I absolutely might roster him because, like we said, this guy's going to have an opportunity to all of a sudden explode and run for 100 yards and maybe pass for 300 yards in a game. He's been known to do that in the college ranks. He couldn't do that in the NFL. So I wouldn't mind rostering him. I mitigate my risk even with my homer quarterback.
Yeah.
So I'll probably be more likely to look for a better, more not better necessarily, but a more reliable option right now.
I just, besides him being a rookie and just the sheer amount of talented quarterbacks, like incredibly deep quarterback class this year. I mean, there's really every team has a guy that you could start. And we always talk about how even years past where it wasn't even as deep as this is, how there's usually 40 plus guys who give you a quarterback 1 week at some point or another. And there's only 32 teams. So that says a lot right there. I mean, it's a lot of risk. Mobile is nice, and I think waiver wire bye-week plug-in. I think playing the matchups if you're streaming the quarterback, it'll be great. But I'm gonna have a hard time putting him ahead of most of these guys. Like I'd probably slide him in around my quarterback, maybe 23, 24. Honestly, kind of in the Andy Dalton, Dak Prescott, Marcus Mariota, Eli Manning range. That's right in the range where I have like Lamar Jackson, who's super mobile, obviously. So. That's just the range I see him in, and at that point, we're in the mid 20s. That's lower quarterback too. So if you're in a 2-quarterback league, you might draft him, but I don't see a need to draft him in a standard 12-team redraft league. So that's just my thought on it. Maybe I'm a little bit negative, but I just don't see a way that I'm taking him ahead of a lot of, like we covered our top 12 here not a couple weeks ago, and I would now take him over any one of those guys. So and it was a rookie. It's risky. So yeah, Kyler Murray, he's gone. Let's move on to the next guy, which is Daniel Jones, who went with a 106 pick. Now this was a reach.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. This was a reach. He was my 4th rated quarterback on my rankings. I don't know about you, but he was my 4th rated quarterback, and a guy who has been defined as the poor man's Eli Manning, and he goes to back up Eli Manning. Now, let's not put the man down. He's done nothing but gone out, had a college career, tested well, went out, was a high first-round draft pick, and he just happens to have all this circumstance around him. I don't think there's much to talk about here because I don't think he'll be starting in 2019 unless injuries happen ahead of him. But it's just something to make note of. If you like Eli Manning, this will be a natural flow and transition if he is to start. So don't be afraid of him. But again, not somebody you're going out to draft. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Next guy on our list, who we think should, at least I think, is in the argument of should have been the second quarterback off the board, Dwayne Haskins. Now, Dwayne Haskins, he went to Washington with the 15th pick in the first round. Now, he fell for a couple of reasons here, but I'll let you talk about that if you want to, Jason. But a very athletic guy and a guy who I think is in a really good position to win the starting job come week 1. Now, that being said, I'm probably not going to be drafting him, but what are your thoughts on Drew Haskins for the 2019 season, Jason?
I really like Drew Haskins for the 2019 season. I'll tell you why. He went to the perfect location for him. Okay, this is a non-mobile quarterback. He's not mobile. They talked about it during the draft, saying, "Oh yeah, he can run." No, he can't. Okay, they always say that about all these quarterbacks. Oh well, they can move. Yeah, he can move, but he can't run. Okay, he can slide in the pocket. He's a smart quarterback. He's a pocket passer. 50 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. You know what I mean? I mean, that shows the production, the ability to get the ball down the field. He's got probably the best arm in this class. And this guy had a 70% completion rate. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? He feels pressure very well. He's intuitive. His reads are a bit slow. That's one of the issues. That's one of the knocks on him, is that he doesn't get through his progressions as fast as he really should in the NFL. So that's going to be an issue. But he needs a good offensive line that's going to be able to block for him. And when Washington's offensive line is healthy, they're one of the best in the league. So I think that Haskins ended up in the perfect location for him to be successful. And I have a feeling he's going to do pretty well this year.
Yeah, I mean, Dwayne Haskins, like I said, I think that he is, out of all the guys that were drafted, he's one of the two that are even worth looking at, because he's one of the only two that I think are going to be starting, and so therefore
Yeah.
you're going to look at in deeper leagues. But that being said, I'm not going out of my way to draft him. There's just so many good quarterbacks, and I just don't want a rookie, which we don't know, which, again, I don't think he's, like obviously, he was the third quarterback taken. We had him as our second quarterback in this year's draft. But if this had been many of the previous year's drafts, he would have been probably a second rounder to me. And I don't know. I don't like his weapons. Josh Doxson, Paul Richardson, like those are his top options, unless you want to throw in Terry what the heck is his last name? Their third round wide receiver. McLaurin, I think is his name. McLaurin. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll figure it out. Yeah.
McLaurin's a decent wide receiver, and we can talk about him at a later date. But he's definitely not explosive. He's not somebody that's gonna blow you away. You know?
No, and of course Jordan Reed, who's great, but probably going to be injured. So I mean, I don't think he's got the best weapons. He's a rookie coming into the league. There's a lot of reasons that I'm not investing in a rookie quarterback. None of these quarterbacks are the draft. The years escaped me, was 2012 with Andrew Luck. Robert Griffin, 2012 season. Andrew Luck, Robert Griffin III, Russell Wilson. It's not that kind of draft class, guys. He's probably going to have a pretty good career. I'm not drafting him with how deep the quarterback position is, and as a rookie this season. Really, the last guy I think that's worth deep diving on and I don't even know if we should deep dive on him. Drew Lock. Somehow, Drew Lock made it to Denver with their third pick. It was their second pick in the second round. They had the 9th and the 10th pick, and they drafted him with a 10th pick in the second. And this was, by many counts, kind of a steal, because he was my third, your third, and
yep.
I assume. And he's a guy who has been compared to one Patrick Mahomes by John Elway and a couple other analysts, and they said that they had him as their highest rated quarterback. Even ahead of Kyler Murray, is some rumors that we've heard. So, I mean, get their guy. John Elway got his guy. John Elway also hasn't been able to evaluate quarterback talent in his entire GM career. I mean, of course, you can't miss with like a Peyton Manning. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on Drew Lock? Obviously, big loser, and we'll get to winners and losers. Joe Flacco, who now has a guy who should have been, honestly, and the team perceives him as a first-round quarterback, behind him yet again this year, and obviously in a new place with all these new everything around him, weapons, faces, surroundings, everything. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like Drew Lock. I mean, this is a guy that he's got one of those intangible things that good quarterbacks do, and that's to keep their eyes downfield. He's always keeping his eyes downfield. He's always looking for the next read in his progression, and that's another thing. This is something that he does better than Dwayne Haskins. He goes through his progressions faster than Dwayne Haskins. He gets to the end of his route tree every single time he drops back to pass. So the guy has got a good head on his shoulders. He's had some accuracy inconsistencies. That's one of the main things that Drew Lock, that was a knock on him, that pushed him down to third on my list. And he's not great against pressure. Okay, so if you're able to get any pressure on him, you're going to rattle him in the pocket. He's not going to be able to get the ball down the field. So he's not ready to start. Okay, he was not a first-round talent, in my opinion. He was a second-round talent or a third-round talent at quarterback. But as we know, quarterbacks get pushed up the board in drafts. So I think Locke is fine. I think that Flacco has nothing to worry about for a year, at least a year, while Drew Lock is behind him learning. And I definitely think, though, he is going to fit what Elway wants him to be able to be. He wants that big-armed, big quarterback who can go through those reads, who's a smart quarterback, and that is Drew Lock. The question is just, when is he going to be ready to be that guy?
Yep. 6'4", 228, big quarterback. 4'6", 940, so pretty quick as well for a quarterback. His physical measurables are closest to, out of names that you would probably recognize. I mean, I could give you Dan oh my God, I can't say his name. Dan Lefevre. Again, I can't name nobody knows. But Christian Hackenberg, Ryan Tannehill are close measurements, the names you know. Patrick Mahomes is pretty similar as well. We already mentioned play style wise, a lot of people are saying that he's pretty similar in those ways, except for really, really big. He's a guy that could have a pretty bright future. Big arm quarterback to back up Joe Flacco, a big arm quarterback. But Joe Flacco, a big arm quarterback who doesn't like to push the ball down the field in his age. Lock, we're talking here. He's got a long history of being a guy who's going to take chances. He's going to force the ball downfield. Probably will make mistakes. Excuse me. But a guy who's going to probably get an opportunity if the Broncos find themselves in, 2-6 at some point in the season, halfway through the year. I could see the fans calling for Drew Lock to get on the field. So a name worth monitoring, but probably a guy that you're not going to be seeing too much of unless things go that way in this year's draft. Behind that, there's Ryan Finley, drafted in the second pick in the 4th round. No third-round quarterbacks. Back up to Andy Dalton. Jared Stidham, I think is how you say his name. Back up to for the Patriots. That's kind of interesting. I mean, there's just a lot of backups here. Nobody else that's really relevant. Is there any one of these guys you want to talk about out of the remaining?
The only one that interested me was Stidham. When New England took Stidham, because this guy, he may be the most natural thrower in this draft class of quarterbacks. The guy is he throws a beautiful football. You know what I mean? When you watch him throw, it's like he's been throwing that football since he was a year old, basically. So that was what was interesting to me, and I could definitely see them grooming him to try to take over in a couple of years for Tom Brady. It is a very New England thing to do, basically. But other than that, most of these guys are really just depth pieces.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he is a 4th-round quarterback, late 4th. I mean, there's no threat to Tom Brady. Let's be clear. No. Completely transparent. But I think he comes in and he's going to compete with Brian Hoyer to be the backup there. So, I mean, could be something. This could be a typical, Patriots. Hey, we drafted Tom Brady in the 6th round, and here we got a 4th-round guy. How good's that gonna work out? And I mean, we'll see. But I don't think that he, at this point in his career, is anything to write home about. At least not for fantasy. So I mean, if he was to take the helm, I wouldn't be overly excited. That's all I'm gonna say. I mean, obviously he's an NFL quarterback drafted in the 4th round. The team sees good things in him, but I think it's a death piece more than anything at this point. If he was to take over, nothing there. I will talk about Tracy McSorley, drafted by my Ravens. Pretty identical play style to Lamar Jackson, except for I think he likes to throw the ball a little bit more, so that's kind of interesting. If Lamar Jackson went down, there's a guy that pairs well with RG3. In fact, has a lot of comparables to RG3, so lots of mobile quarterbacks in Baltimore. Yay! I love running quarterbacks. Great for fantasy, so something to maybe monitor.
I don't think you meant that.
I know, right? It's a gimmick offense. I don't care what anybody says. It's not going to have a long term. But I don't know. It's a conversation for another day. But yeah, if Lamar Jackson were to go down, RG3 were to go down, a guy worth maybe taking a look at, because mobile quarterbacks are your friend in fantasy, especially if you're in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. You really want to get, which is the standard these days, you want to get these rushing quarterbacks. They're going to get you rushing yards, potentially rushing touchdowns, and that is gold for fantasy football. So with that, we'll move on. Now, same thing at the running back position. Not a lot to really dive on, at least nothing that we're going to see as a definite fantasy asset. Now, there's some death pieces that are very interesting here, and some guys who are going to compete for touches, absolutely. Yeah. But as far as fantasy relevance, the guys you are going to actually invest draft stock in, there's only one guy, as far as I'm concerned, and correct me if you think somebody else, but there's only one guy that I would be targeting at all in fantasy drafts, and he was the top top running back taken, the only running back taken in the 1st round, and this was the most predictable thing in the entire draft, and that was Josh Jacobs going to the Oakland Raiders with the 24th pick in the 1st round. And honestly, to me, the most impressive thing was the fact that Mike Mayock was able to wait until their second pick to draft him. So Josh Jacobs, he finds himself a home on the Oakland Raiders, the final year, as we think it, Oakland Raiders, soon to be Las Vegas Raiders, and a guy who has really little competition to beat him out for the starting job. I mean, I think there'll be a committee there, but I think he's going to be a 3-down back for them with rotational pieces to spell him. A guy who, again, if this was a guy in previous year's drafts, probably a second rounder. I mean, he barely was a first rounder. Honestly, he was a latter third of the draft first rounder this year. So, I mean, he's a 3-down back. Let's be clear, but he's not like we've had in 3 of the last 4 years where we're talking about generational type talents. He's just, you know, he's a good player who landed in a good situation, and therefore there's definite fantasy relevance there. Jason, what are your thoughts on Josh Jacobs for fantasy for 2019?
The word you're looking for when you talk about Josh Jacobs is solid. He's a solid running back.
I like that.
He's a workhorse running back. Right. That's gonna do what you need him to do. You know what I mean? He's not gonna blow you away. He's not gonna take it to the house, you know, for 60-yard runs and things like that. He's not that fast. But he is a violent power runner. He's somebody that can run between the tackles and smash his way through the line into the second level. Remember, this guy was not a featured back in Alabama. He was not the workhorse back. He was actually more of a 3rd down back in Alabama when he played in Alabama. He's a decent receiver. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's patient. You know what I mean? He's not shifty. So when he gets out into the second, he's not going to make you miss a lot. He's what's called a one-cut runner. He's a decisive one-cut runner. He'll make one cut, pick a lane, and he'll go for it. And that's really what you want. You know, you want that kind of unless you got someone like a David Johnson or Joe Mixon that can fake you out of your cleats. You know, you want a guy that can take one cut and just take it as far as he possibly can. He's going to have a high yardage per carry, I think, in his career, probably because of that decisiveness. And he's 220 pounds, 5'10". He's a low center of gravity bowling ball of a running back. Yeah, you know what I mean. And he's a solid guy, and he's got a really solid work ethic. I think he's going to do very, very well for Oakland.
Yeah, I think a one-cut guy is a good definition. He's definitely a north-south runner to me. I mean, he can pass the ball, but I wouldn't say that he's like the best pass catcher even out of this rookie class. I think that he's going to be a great addition, and he's going to be a workhorse, and I think all of those reasons, he's a guy that I'm looking for as he's definitely a waiver wire, well, not waiver wire, a flex guy for your team, running back 2 upside. I don't think he's got running back 1 potential, even with his workload, because there's just so many really good running backs this year. But to put out his measurables, again, height, weight, hand size, arms length, all that stuff. He is a 99% comparison to Jonathan Williams, Jonas Gray. He's got very similar measurables to Kareem Hunt, Donta Foreman, Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley, Eddie Lacy. A big guy, a big thick running back. Not tall, not huge, but a solid build, like you said. And I think that he's going to fit that north-south role pretty well. He can take it to the sidelines. He's got some quickness to him. I don't know. I like him. I'm not enthralled by any of these running backs, honestly. I don't know. He's a guy worth drafting. Definitely the top one, and really I think the only one I would be targeting, like I said, in any of my redraft leagues this year. Just a guy definitely worth keeping an eye on. And I think a guy you'll probably end up getting, I don't know, what do you think? 6th rounder, early middle rounds? 5th, 6th round maybe?
Just because of the number of running backs that are going to fly off the board in the 1st and 2nd rounds, yeah, I could see him going in the 6th or 7th round.
Yeah, 5th, 6th sounds about right to me. I haven't researched it. I haven't put him into my rankings yet, but it's something. Right. It just feels right, honestly.
It's a complete guess.
A complete guess.
No analytics.
Shot in the dark. It's
shot in the dark.
Analytics guy right here, taking a shot in the dark. I like it. Behind that, a lot of interesting picks. Miles Sanders went next to the Philadelphia Eagles, which is very much a depth piece. This is a guy that I had as probably a late 3rd, 4th rounder. He was I don't have my ranking in front of me, my 6th running back on my list. I don't know where you had him. 5th for you. What are your thoughts on Miles Sanders, and why do you think the Eagles felt the need to draft him in the middle of the 2nd round?
I mean, they saw something in him they like, obviously. I mean, there's something that fits their system that they really want to do. maybe it's the fact that he didn't get a lot of carries. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of tread off his tires, so that's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah.
He's well built, 5'11", 211 pounds, so he's decently built. Right, he looks the part of an NFL running back. He's got good vision and quickness. He's got lateral agility. These are all good things. Couple of problems. He's not an explosive runner. You know what I mean? This is a guy that's more smooth than explosive, which to me doesn't really scream Eagles, which is interesting to me. I would have thought they would have gone out and tried to find someone explosive. Not a great blocker. Ball security is a problem. He's fumbled the ball quite a few times. He's got average burst. Really, he doesn't get going real fast. It takes him a while to get going. So,
right,
an interesting pick, especially as high as they picked him. I don't know. For me, I think he's probably going to be more of a depth piece.
Yeah, vertical jump, broad jump. It wasn't anything that necessarily knocked my socks off. I mean, 124-inch broad jump's pretty darn good, but 4.49 40, pretty darn good as well. Not the fastest, sure. not blistering speeds, but pretty darn good for a 5'11", 211-pound running back. Not too bad. 6'8", 3-cone drill. So, again, respectable numbers, I would say.
Sure.
I'm just not sure exactly what the Eagles saw in him that made them think, all right, this guy who's in most people's board, a third-round pick, we're going to get him right now, middle of the second. His measurables, 85th percentile broad jump, which, again, that was the thing that stood out to me. I'm looking for a notable name Felix Jones is the closest comparison to his measurables. If you're looking at just pure raw statistical measurables, he doesn't really fit your prototypical anything. He's kind of a weird hybrid, and I think they're going to use him that way. I don't.
He's a TJ Yeldon type. I mean, that's as close as I can get to a decent comparison for that guy.
I don't actually hate that comparison. But, I mean, in a backfield which has Jordan Howard, which is going to be obviously their first, second down back, does he slide in as the backup? Does he move ahead of Wendell Smallwood and a Corey Clement? Or is he going to be competing with all these guys for he's going to be on the team. He's a second rounder, let's be clear. But, I mean, is he going to be competing for touches on this team? I don't know. It was an interesting pick. I didn't see it coming. And I'm going to be intrigued to see how the Eagles use him, because they found creative ways to use their players in the past, but this is one that made me scratch my head at the moment, and I still don't have very much clarity on it. Next guy on this list is definitely interesting. David Montgomery was the 10th pick in the third round. So, again, we're getting into those middle rounds now. But also, the Bears took him. He went to the Chicago Bears with their first pick in the entire draft. They took a shot at a running back when they already have Tariq Cohen. So, interesting. Brought in to replace Jordan Howard, I would assume. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. 5'10", 222 pounds. This is one of my favorite running backs in the draft, and that's not saying a lot because, again, there are not a lot of great running backs in this draft. He's not the fastest running back in the world. He ran a 4.6 340. Okay, so not the fastest guy in the world, but this is a guy that is very patient. He's very elusive. He's shifty. He's got close space quickness. So it's hard to get a hand on him. It's really hard to bring down too. He's very solid, his balance is really good. So it's difficult to bring him down. Some of the problems that you see with him is he ran mostly out of the shotgun in college, which doesn't seem like that'd be a big deal, but it can be. Lining up under when the quarterback's under center, it's a different kind of a run situation for him. So below average burst into open space. He's got a lot of problems that are not going to be massive problems if they're going to use him basically as a battering ram, which they shouldn't with this guy, but that might be what they do because of his speed. He's not fast. Yeah. He's not a straight line runner. He's an elusive, cut through the middle kind of a guy, and that's the good thing about him is he can find those crevices in the front seven and extend a 1 yard or 2 yard run into a 3 or 4 yard run. So that's a good weapon to have in your arsenal. I like David Montgomery quite a bit. I would like to see them use him a little bit more.
Yeah, he basically said everything that I was kind of thinking. Like his numbers, nothing that really blows my mind. I mean, I don't know. He doesn't excite me at all. The he's I agree with everything that you kind of said as well. Where he's a powerful guy. He's good at kind of falling forward. He's got a nice compact frame. I think he's going to play that Jordan Howard role. I think he's also good at pass protection from what I saw. But yeah, he doesn't have great burst in open space. I didn't see that he was very explosive from the tape that I saw on him. He's had a big workload through college as well, so that's probably not great, which might have affected his draft stock. But I don't know. I think he's a pretty solid middle of the road. He's going to be a change of pace to Tariq Cohen, who's a 3-down back. I think I don't think his expertise is going to be in pass protection. I think, or in passing. I think that or pass catching words, English. Come on, Griffin.
Got it. You can do it.
I can do this. I don't know.
Native language.
I just see him as a guy that they're going to use to spell Tariq Cohen. They're going to use him for short yardage, probably to fall forward and get some of those tough yards that Tariq Cohen's probably not going to excel with. Because, I mean, he's a pretty decent size. He's 5'10", 222. Not the strongest guy either. He only had 15 reps on the bench, which doesn't account to anything, but that's just something that caught my eye because, it's not a lot. But yeah, it's, I don't know, interesting. He'll have some use. I don't know how much it'll be fantasy relevance, but we can move on. Darrell Henderson, Los Angeles Rams. Now, this is something that, depending on your faith in Sean McVay and whether he is to be taken at his word or not, might be an interesting guy worth looking at in the later rounds, especially if you're the Todd Gurley owner, because all we've been hearing is that Todd Gurley is great. He's good to go. They didn't re-sign CJ Anderson. He's going to be getting the normal workload, maybe slightly reduced, but they've got guys in house that they like and they trust to do it. And then they go out and they burn a early 3rd round pick on Darrell Henderson. And remember, we were hearing that Todd Gurley was great and fine and healthy and dandy all the way through the Super Bowl, which we never saw him really get his workload he was getting throughout the main portion of the season. So I don't trust Sean McVay as far as I can throw him. So I'm a little concerned with all the stem cell research and arthritis things we're hearing, but we're also hearing from sources close to him that Todd Gurley is fine. So at the end of the day, all we know is that we know nothing. So that makes this drafting of Darrell Henderson very interesting. What are your thoughts, Jason?
This guy is what you call a home run hitter.
Yeah.
Okay. His average was 8.9 yards per carry.
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
9 yards. That's ridiculous. He had 43 carries of 15 plus yards. He had 11 touchdowns of 54 yards. 11 touchdowns for over 54 yards per carry in 1 year. Okay, so that's basically what you're thinking about with this guy. If you draft this guy in any leagues at all, you're banking on that one 50-yard touchdown run that he's going to get. You know what I mean? And that's really what this guy is. He's that home run hitter. He's not going to get a lot of volume. He's not going to go 5 yards and then 6 yards and then 3 yards and then 4 yards. He's not going to get carry after carry after carry. He's going to be the guy to bring in, hand the ball to him one time and hope that he can break it for 50 yards. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
That's this guy. He's he's fast. He's elusive. He's quick. He's always got a nose for the end zone. This is all good things. The problem with this guy is that if he gets hit just right, he's going to be in trouble because he is a smaller back. He's 5'8", 200 pounds.
Yeah.
He's going to be in a lot of trouble. So that's the deal. This guy is going to be a 3rd down back. He's going to be the guy that they try to break open a defense with.
I mean, he can definitely do it all. I definitely agree he's a home run hitter. The 8.9 yards per carry is pretty insane. That's really good. He's got quick acceleration. He's actually pretty good after contact as well. But, I mean, he's definitely a guy that they want to use in open space. Fast guy, 4'4", 940, which is pretty good. I don't know. He hasn't seen a huge workload. His upright running style has been linked towards the fact that he does get tackled if people get clean hits on him pretty easy as well. I don't know, and these are things that they'll work on with the guy. I just think
he's not a good blocker either. Not a great blocker.
No, his pass protection, I didn't like anything that I saw. I saw him actually get give up some nice quarterback hits. Yeah. I didn't like that tape, which will keep him off the field for sure if he can't keep Jared Goff upright. So he's a guy again. He's worth mentioning because we just don't know about Todd Gurley. If given a workload, which I don't know if he would get the full workload, but given a workload, I think that he's a guy that could be interesting. Not, I don't say waiver wire for third tier. Flex option, potential waiver wire if he's out there type guy to be keeping an eye on. But I mean, I'm not going out and investing huge draft capital in him if I believe in Todd Gurley. If I had, well, maybe I would, because if I draft Todd Gurley, I might want his backup. Not saying he would be the backup, because they remember they re-signed and they really like Malcolm Brown, who's still there. So it's interesting, is all I'm saying. He's a home run hitter, interesting guy. I don't know how well he'll hold up to a full workload. They got to work on his base mechanics, but a guy worth keeping an eye on for sure. Beyond that, Devin Singletary went to the Bills with the 11th pick of the 3rd round.
Depth piece. He's like a skinny Frank Gore, basically. That's the kind of guy. He doesn't have a lot of speed. He's patient. He's a quick twitch athlete. He's able to find those seams well, but he's not somebody that you're gonna hand the ball off to all the time. It's just not gonna happen.
I mean, excuse me.
Am I boring you?
No, Devin Singletary's opportunity is boring me, because end of the day, this is a guy. and listen to this. I mean, if you're not plugged in to the Buffalo Bills and what they're doing right now, LaShawn McCoy, Frank Gore, TJ Yeldon, and then you've got Devin Singletary. Now, I don't think that he's got the skill set to beat out most of them at this point in their career, but I think it's it could be a 4-headed running attack. I don't think they're going to have all these guys on the team after camp's over.
No.
I mean,
someone's going away.
They could purge LaShawn McCoy, I think, and save some money. I don't have his salary numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that's what they're trying to replace him. They're not going into the season with 3. I can't say high-profile backs, but 3 known backs, 2 guys they picked up in free agency, a 3rd-round rookie, and then their big contract, LaShawn McCoy, that's still there. Something's going to give, but I don't know. I don't know. Devin Singletary is a guy that I just think he could not have gone to a worse situation, because I don't think that out of these couple guys that we're talking about that went early, I don't think he has any shot at seeing the playing field anytime soon, unless to be fair, LaShawn McCoy and Frank Gore between them are probably like 70. So I don't know, maybe they both go down and he sees some playing time, but at least initially he's not a guy I'm drafting at all. Maybe a name I bring him up only because potentially, if injuries do occur, because, I mean, Frank Gore is old. LaShawn McCoy has been banged up. TJ Yeldon's had injury problems as well. He could be seeing an opportunity at some point for a higher drafted guy. I mean, I don't think his ceiling is super high, but it could be volume. But at day one, it's a crap opportunity. Not a guy I'm looking at. Do you have anyone else you really want to talk about here? Damian Harris went to the Patriots with the 24th pick.
I mean, that's a good one, because Damian Harris was my number 2 back.
He was my number 3. So yeah,
you're 3, right?
Yeah.
So number 2 for me, number 3 for you, and the New England Patriots got him as what, the 6th, 3, 4, 5, sixth running back off the board. So that's really good value. 24th pick in the 3rd round. This is a guy that he's a smaller back. He seeks contact though. This is a guy that loves to hit people. And if you watch his tape, it looks like he's aiming for these people. And it's like, if you ever saw Die Hard with a Vengeance, are you aiming for these people? That's what he's doing. He's aiming for them.
Yes.
Yes, I am. Yes, especially that mine.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a good cut jump. He's a very good receiver. He lacks elite speed and elusiveness. And that's the thing. It's like either you got speed or elusiveness. This guy's got neither of them, and he's a smaller back. He's a no-frills, straight-up running back who just likes to hit. So, interesting pick. He's like a Derrick Henry. I mean, a smaller version of Derrick Henry. Yeah. So he's somebody that you love the tenacity and someone that's going to get his yards. You know what I mean? So I think this was a good pickup for New England. And New England, I think they think of running backs as like clubs in their golf bag. They're like, oh, I don't have this one. Put that in my golf bag, So watch out for Damian Harris. He might get some usage New England Patriots.
I think they might part ways with Rex Burkhead, and that gives Damian Harris gives them kind of that north-south runner, because that's not James White. Sony Michel's pretty shifty. I think it's a guy that they can have on the cheap that could fill that role.
Sure.
I mean, I'll put it to you this way: his measurables put him his closest comparison, Kareem Hunt. Kenneth Dixon, so stocky guys. Kenneth Dixon's pretty good in the open field and passing, which this guy can be as well, but I don't know. He doesn't have really any burst that I thought jumped off the page to me. I mean, he has a 4.57 40, which isn't great. It's not bad, but it's not great for a 216-pound back. I don't know. I think that he's good at finding open space, though, and he's able to make, bigger plays out of small plays, and he can shed a tackle or two, but he's just not a guy who excited me watching his tape. So it's... Yep. I don't know. I don't see a clear opportunity for touches, and so, though going to the Patriots, which I think are very much transitioning to a run-first offense as Tom Brady gets older, they're passing less and less. I mean, Tom Brady can still obviously shoulder the workload, and he can go out there and win you a game, but I think that he's going to be part of, at the very least, a three-headed attack, and so therefore it's really hard to invest draft capital in a guy who is going to see, maybe if he's having a good week, 8 touches in a game, and that's honestly not even flex-worthy production. Like, maybe if he's able to break a couple of those off or get a touchdown, but you've got to really hope that happens, and I don't know that this is the kind of guy that I can bank on to do that, week in and week out. Again, he's a thick north-south runner to me. I think that's the role he's going to play. Some short yardage, maybe, but I don't know.
He wants to go out and pop somebody, and that's what they're going to let him do.
I mean,
the only other guy,
he's not elusive. He just wants to hit somebody.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what he wants to do. Yeah. The only other guy that I think is worth talking about in this entire list is probably Bryce Love. This is a guy that he's shifty, he's elusive, very highly intelligent for running back. Kind of understands exactly what needs to happen. This is an interesting. I thought of this guy as a New England guy. When I saw him originally on the board, I was like, I can see them taking him. He's a smaller guy.
See that.
He's got that kind of intelligence, and that they can use him in a lot of different ways. Very frenetic type of a runner. He keeps his feet moving no matter what. And also, he's got a very, very high character rating. Everybody that talked to him basically was like, this guy is, an awesome kid. He's got a great work ethic, great head on his shoulders. So I could see Bryce Love carving some work out in Washington. Again, depending on how well Darius Geis is doing now that he's going to be coming off of his injury and all that kind of stuff, this guy could get some usage.
See, for me, Bryce Love is a guy that I kind of feel like I was honestly shocked that he got drafted in the 4th round. He had good tape. I like some of his tape, but like his measurables, I mean, obviously he didn't really do anything at the combine, but his measurables at like his pro day and everything were absolute garbage. He was in the 30th percentile for things like bench press. We're talking about hand size, his ability to obviously hold the ball, which you don't think about, but that's a pretty important thing for a running back. Arm length, wingspan, height, width. He's not a guy who you think of as your prototypical running back. It's just not an exciting thing. I don't know.
This is a guy he's a better football player than he is an athlete.
I agree with that. I'll give you that. But I also think that it's kind of pointless to even talk about him, honestly, because he went to a team that has Adrian Peterson, Darius Geis, Chris Thompson ahead of him as it is right now. Samaje Perine's there as well, but I'm not too worried about him. And then he's there as the 5th guy on the depth chart. He is going to be struggling for touches, and as a 4th round back, there's a very real chance he might not even make the team. He might be a practice squad guy. So I mean, maybe a guy to pay attention to if all those guys go down ahead of him, but I will not be looking his way in my redraft leagues. I mean, if you want to get him, that's more power to you, but I don't know. I mean, okay, what would you say is the biggest thing that excited you about him, honestly? Because I mean, I think he had some burst and top end speed, but I just don't see it personally.
What excited me about it?
Yeah, because you said you see him as a Patriots guy, and the Patriots always think they're smarter than everybody. So what did you see that really excited you? I know you gave me a rundown of him, but
it's that kind of ability for him to dissect what he needs to do. He's a very patient runner. He's got the ability to get through those crevices, through those creases in a defense. Those are the things I like in a running back. I want a running back that doesn't run directly into the back of his blockers. You know, that drives me insane. When I watch running backs and they're not running to daylight, I'm like, what are you doing? This guy always runs to daylight. He always finds a crease. He always gets out there and does what he's got to do. He's also a decent blocker. You know, these are all good things which could get him on the field.
Right.
You know what I mean? And yeah, you're right. He's down the depth chart. He's low, but this is the kind of guy that has no problem working his way from where you think he's not going to get any work to getting himself on the field, because he's got that kind of work ethic. So I could definitely, especially with, with that top end speed that he's got, I could definitely see him doing that. The only concern with him is the ACL tear, that he had. Yeah. That's definitely a concern. And the fact that he's a fourth rounder, that could keep him off the field more than anything skill wise.
That's fair. I mean, I will say that and you already said something to his character. He's got heart. He pushes through. He plays whistle to whistle. I'll give him that. I mean, everything I saw in him, he's definitely, he's strong-willed, which is desirable. And he's got pretty good pass-catching skills. I don't think he's going to supplant Chris Thompson in the pass-catching role. But, I mean, I think he's a higher floor type guy than Chris Thompson. Chris Thompson's the home run hitter. So maybe he has a role in the offense, but this guy's gonna maybe see 3 to 4 touches a game, and that's not something I'm looking to. He's not a guy worth drafting to me. I don't know. The only other guy on here that really caught my eye, because as I look down the list, I mean, Vikings got depth, Steelers got depth, Cowboys got a couple of pieces of depth, but they're not going to see touches behind Ezekiel Elliott. Jacksonville got some depth. I mean, a lot of teams. The Cincinnati Bengals drafted 2 running backs as well. All these are great pieces, but they're all backup and I think like camp bodies. Miami even drafted a couple running backs. Justice Hill got a lot of interest, and going to the Ravens, my Ravens, who like to run the ball a lot. I just thought that was kind of interesting. But, I mean, he goes to a situation that is already just riddled with bodies. But, I mean, the one thing, and we're going to go around the league and give you the breakdown of exactly what every team did and kind of give you our thoughts on their drafts and their free agents and basically their entire offseason after we're done with this. Well, we might do a mock draft, but we'll get to that soon. The Ravens got athletes. They didn't just get players. They got crazy mathematical freak athletes. And I mean, Hill's one of those guys that he just tested just out of his mind. I mean, 4.4 40, really good vertical. His broad jump 130, which is pretty insane. I mean, he's a guy who goes to the Ravens, a team that likes to run the ball a lot. So people are connecting him to being somebody that's definitely worth keeping an eye on. But Mark Ingram's going to get the vast majority of the touches, and there's already plenty of other backs there. So, I mean, I only bring it up because I say, yeah, he's a freak athlete, and he's a guy who might earn himself more playing time. But I just don't see a world where he's going to get you enough volume to be excited about him. When ahead of him, there's already, obviously, Ingram. Gus Edwards is there. Kenneth Dixon's there. He might slide in as the 4th guy to start. I don't know. I just felt the need to bring that up because, yes, the Ravens run the ball a lot, but also Lamar Jackson's going to steal touches. They ran the ball, what was it, like 65% of the time, something crazy. I don't know. It's a lot. It's a problem.
Yeah. I
don't know. What do you have any thoughts about his potential on a run heavy, run first, second, and third down team?
I mean, the only thing I could say about that is the fact that with all that running, and we've already seen it in you guys, and for some reason, I don't know, again, I've said this before, I don't know if if your Ravens are out there beating their people with ball-peen hammers or something, but there's always a lot of injuries that come out of camp.
We do like our injuries.
One of the most injured teams every single year.
Every year.
It's not even surprising anymore. I hear, this guy got injured. It's just like, oh yeah, he's probably a Raven. It's probably
or a Charger.
Or a Charger. A Raven or a Charger, he probably got hurt.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's got top-end speed. You know what I mean? He had a great broad jump. He's like you said, the guy's a freak athlete, which is always
Shifty
a good thing.
as heck too. He can throw on the
Absolutely.
brakes like that.
Absolutely,
His
he's got
tape's
that. He's got that
insane.
change of direction. He's got that amazing change of direction speed, ability. He's got a lot of production in college, which you and I have said I don't care about production in college because it doesn't mean a whole lot. It's not against the same kind of thing that he's going against here. He's a smaller back,
Yeah, he
and
is.
as you said, he's the kind of guy that you're going to use in specific situations. You know what I mean? And he could be very, very good. You guys might decide to thin out the herd a little bit and go younger at the position.
I mean,
But
I
that's
could
a lot
see
of
it.
ifs. That's a lot of maybes.
It's a lot of looking at what could be instead of what is at this point. I mean, I've seen a
Right.
lot of people who have come out and said that he is going to be the Alvin Kamara to Mark Ingram in Baltimore, which I could honestly see. I could really see it. But
Yeah.
until what is ahead of him thins out, or we see it out in camp and in the preseason, I can really say that's his role. That's what's going to happen. It's just really
Right.
rough to say. So that's why I thought I'd bring it up, because he is that type of athlete. Insane numbers. But I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you see the comparison on him? Not the comparison, but the analytics on him that said he runs like his hair's on fire.
Yes. Yes, I saw that.
I laughed when I
I'll
read
be honest
that.
with you. I love that. Whenever I hear that from somebody, I love to hear that because that's the kind of football player you want. You want someone that
Yeah.
plays like this down is the last down they're going to play. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And if there's truth in that, and from what I've seen from his tape, he is. I mean, the guy wants to be out there. He wants to be with the ball. He wants the ball every single down. He wants to run that sucker. He's shifty. He's going to make you miss. And like you said, one of the most amazing things that jumped out at me was his ability to just change direction. It was
Insane.
very, very Barry Sanders. He's going this way and now he's over there. And that's what you want in a very good, elusive running back. So again, I could see him carving out a niche for himself in this offense, especially given all the running packages you guys love to run now with your quarterback and everybody else.
I mean, and he's got good catching, good open space, ball handling skills. I mean, I could see it. So, I mean, that's why I bring it up, because, I mean, this is an athlete who tested in the 90th percentile in broad jump and vertical jump and 40-yard dash. Great hands, good in space, crazy shifty, blistering straight line speed. I mean, he's got all these great measurables, and people are probably wondering, well, why was he a fourth rounder? Because he's an undersized back. He's not going to be a featured back. He is a role player in an offense, but a guy for fantasy, which could be really exciting. And so therefore a guy to keep an eye on a team that likes to run the ball way too much in Baltimore. That's why I bring it up. It's not someone I'm looking to draft if I'm drafting right now, maybe best ball leagues, but it's just tough because, again, there's so many mouths in Baltimore, plus a quarterback that's going to vulture touches. But, I mean, he could be that Alvin Kamara.
If he was 20 pounds heavier, he would have been a first.
If he was 20 pounds heavier, so that would put him in the 220 range, 5'10". Yeah. If he maintained all of his measurables with about 20 more pounds, 100% actually. I would see that he'd be a first rounder. That's actually a good analysis there, Jason. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, with that though, let's get out. Unless was there anybody else you wanted to talk about, or you want to get out of here?
No, man. The rest of these guys, as our good friend CJ would say, are jobbers.
They're a lot of jobbers. A lot of them are bodies.
Curtain jerkers.
I don't think a lot of them have upside, even if they got the volume. I mean, look, any one of these guys could have quality opportunity to be fantasy relevant, but they're buried in depth charts, and there's not a clear line for touches, production, and honestly, I don't think a lot of them have a ceiling that's necessarily worth diving on as of right now. So, I mean, they're great players. Sure, they got drafted. Congratulations. Welcome to the NFL. But for our fantasy purposes, not a lot to deep dive on for most of these other guys. So we'll get out of here. Make sure you guys tune in on Friday when we will be back talking about the wide receivers and the tight ends, the fantasy relevant ones. And there's a lot more to talk about there because obviously, unlike a running back where there's one, maybe two on the field at a time for a team, the wide receivers, 3, 4, crazy packages. You who knows? All these guys probably have an opportunity. So we'll talk about some of the top ones, some of the top tight ends. Make sure you guys are here for that. And yeah, we'll be back then. If you want to follow us again, we are on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. I'm at G Palmer FFF. Jason's at Jace Cabrera and 13 rather. And yeah, any parting thoughts, Jason?
No, not really, guys. I mean, I hope you enjoyed the draft as much as we did. A lot of crazy stuff happened, a lot of crying, and mostly on my part.
Just because I was
a
right.
lot of nuts stuff. Yeah, I don't care if you're right or not. I mean, you're right every now and then. It happens.
I've been right every year thus far with the first pick.
You're starting to see the ego of Griffin Palmer coming out right now. I'm always right.
It just because we've gone head to head on the first pick the last 2 years, and I've been right both times. They'll be mad.
You know what though? That's okay because I'm the one that's come out with 2 or 3 correct guesses in the first round over the past couple years. So I'll take that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Ooh. All right, we're out of here, everybody. Take care. Have a great week. We will see you on Friday. Bye, guys.